Queer ecology. The term queer ecology refers to a loose interdisciplinary constellation of practices that aim to disrupt prevailing heterosexist discursive and institutional articulations of sexuality and nature, and also to reimagine evolutionary processes, ecological interactions, and environmental politics in the light of queer theory. Drawing from diverse traditions, queer ecology highlights the complexity of contemporary biopolitics, draws important connections between material and cultural dimensions of environmental issues, and insists on an articulatory practice in which sex and nature are understood in light of multiple trajectories of power and matter. Michel Foucault lays the groundwork for much contemporary queer ecological scholarship. Foucault observes that, beginning in the 19th century, modern regimes of biopower came to conceive of sex as a specific object of scientific knowledge. This knowledge is organized through, on the one hand, a biology of reproduction that considered human sexual behavior in relation to the physiologies of plant and animal reproduction, and on the other, a medicine of sex that conceived a human sexuality in terms of desire and identity. The establishment of sex as a matter of biopolitical truth could not help but be connected to ideas of nature, and especially to racialized, sexualized, and other anxieties over hygiene and degeneracy. In this context, the figure of the homosexual came to haunt the margins of emerging discourses in urban development, environmental health, and even wilderness preservation. The effeminate homosexual and the lesbian gender invert were not only seen increasingly as against nature, but also sometimes considered symptoms of the toxic underside of industrial, urban, and increasingly cosmopolitan modernity. The placement of sexual desire and orientation in the purview of evolutionary concern gave rise not only to the articulation of homosexuality with degeneracy, but also to the possibility that a variety of sexual practices and identities could be understood as natural and therefore morally neutral. Guides Corridon pursued the idea that the homosexual activities of boy shepherds represented a more authentic and innocent sexuality than the heterosexual conventions they needed to learn in order to enter into adult relations of enforced heterosexuality. Rachel Stein writes, by analyzing how discourses of nature have been used to enforce heteronormativity, to police sexuality, and to punish and exclude those persons who have been deemed sexually transgressive, we can begin to understand the deep underlying commonalities between struggle against sexual oppression and other struggles of environmental justice. Elizabeth Wilson and Myra Hird consider the ways in which non-human sexual and gender diversity both calls into question human exceptionalism and destabilizes notions of identity, authenticity, and technology on which modern categories of human sexual orientation rest. Karen Barrett, deploying a notion of queer performativity to strong post-humanist ends, explores the ways in which the material world can be understood as unfolding according to a process of relational co-constitution in which materialization itself can be understood queerly.